Next, we talk with Dan Montgomery, president of the Illinois Federation of Teachers, who tells us why his organization was against the new version of the pension reform bill. This runs about 7 minutes.
Dan Montgomery of the Illinois Federation of Teachers. You were just testifying before a committee on the new pension bill that was offered here on the last day of the session, in which there's a provision that would get away with the so-called cost shifting. Now, you came out against that bill, and as I understand it, would argue that there is still a cost shift to the local districts. Can you explain your reasoning on that?
Sure. This new amendment does away with what had been proposed, which was shifting the entire normal cost to school districts and universities. What this amendment says is you don't do that, but at the end of career, any raise an employee would get that's above 0%, so any raise, the actuarial value of that must be paid by the employer. So it's shifting the actuarial cost of that, which before was included in the TRS calculation. Now a local employer has to pay that. One of the problems is you don't know always exactly when someone's going to retire. They retire for all sorts of reasons, health reasons, or a job change of a spouse, or they leave, it doesn't even have to constitute retirement. So if they got raises above anything, above zero, in the last 4 years they worked for the district must pay the actuarial value of that, which is not just the raise amount, not just 2%, say, but quite a much higher cost based on what the effect that would have on someone's pension. So it does shift the cost, certainly, to some degree to the local employer. But we still also object to the bill on other grounds, constitutional, the burden, the state not paying what it owes is a problem for us.
And by, you mean no guarantee? Is that what you mean by the state?
I mean two things. You're right. There is no, in this language, there's no real funding guarantee. And that's been key to our members. Our members have said, look, we're willing to take a hit to be part of the solution, maybe get less, pay more, whatever, if the state, please make sure that they never put us in this position again. And they put in what they're supposed to put in under the law. We don't have that language in here. This bill can pass and the state can continue to underfund the systems as they've had. So we don't see it as a long-term solution. And then the value. Again, I don't see shared sacrifice here. They're taking, by their own testimony, tens of billions, as much as $66 billion from a bill that the state owes and asking school teachers and nurses and firemen to pay it.
What would you say if Tom Cross, who was the leader of the House Republicans and was the primary advocate for removing the cost shift to the local districts, because he had a concern, I believe you share that concern, that it could cost harm to your teachers and that the districts might lay off teachers or keep their salaries artificially low because they would have to come up money. So some people might say, well, wait a minute, why aren't you in favor of getting rid of the cost shift that Tom Cross is in favor? Because it, to some extent, doesn't it protect your members from being laid off or having their salaries cut?
Well, I don't think so, because, as I said, the cost shift still exists. The potential for districts...
Can I insert here? Is it a marginal... in other words, I think it's an interesting point you're making that there is somewhat of a cost shift still because of this factor that the district has to pick up anything above 0% increase, and it's unrealistic to think there's not going to be a salary increase. So there is a cost to the district. But is it a less of a cost shift, for if that's, I don't know what the grammar would be on that, and I'm talking to an English teacher, but would it be less of a cost shift than if it had been in the original bill under Speaker Madigan's writing?
I think I understand your question. I think it's hard to say, and the school management folks testified that one reason they didn't like this amendment, Cross's amendment, was its unpredictability. I think they said, look, if you shift the normal cost over to us, but you do it over a much longer, like a 17-year phase-in or something they were saying, then at least we know and can plan ahead. Under this version, you can't do that. So I think people can argue around the margins of that. I guess I would say, if you go back to the governor's original plan, there was no cost shift in it. And what the governor said was, I think that you probably have to do that, but we'll do that separately. So I really deal with these as two separate issues. What I would say to Speaker or Leader Cross, as you asked, I would say, listen, this needs more work. You know, this is what happens when you try to legislate with 13 hours to go or whatever. This is not good law right now, and we've said all along the unions are ready to work, be part of the solution, make reasonable agreements about how to be fair to taxpayers, our members, and the state. And I think there's more work to do.
So you might share Representative Boss' frustration to some extent that we get these bills at the last moment.
I don't know if I'm going to throw my papers up in the air, but that was very interesting, yes.
Lastly, let's just wrap with an overview.
Yeah.
The governor proposed having your members pay more, raising the retirement to 67, and making the COLAs. Given how this has evolved, are you generally satisfied the way it's evolved, even though you're totally not happy, as compared to what had been proposed just a month or two ago?
So, if I understand your question, it's really is this worse than the governor's plan or not?
Is this a better deal than what you were looking at least 2 months ago? And to that extent, are you happy to walk away with a partial victory?
No. I don't know which one I'd say was better. I think they're both deeply flawed, and we're definitely not happy. And let's go back to two key facts. Okay, the funding guarantee we talked about. This is not a long-term solution. 2, the governor himself never proposed attacking the earned benefits of retirees. This is going after people who are 80 years old and taking away something they already paid for. Unconstitutional. And the lawmakers, last I heard, took an oath to uphold the Illinois Constitution.
And lastly, we talked to Henry Berry yesterday of AFSCME. He said they were already meeting with counsel to prepare a lawsuit. Are you at all part of that coalition that would challenge this legally?
Yes, the We Are One coalition, the big coalition of unions, has engaged counsel, and I think legal action's almost certain.
All right, Dan Montgomery, thank you.
All right, thank you.
You're watching the Illinois Channel.